We are going to be making a tote bag, and I'm going to show you how to make one. First of all, I'm going to turn the camera. You will need 4 pieces of square material, 2 for the outside and 2 for the lining. And each of these 4 pieces, you'll see I have 2 of this kind and 2 of this kind. Each piece will be 18 inches by 18 inches square. And what you will need to do is iron each of these pieces so they look nice and unwrinkled. So you will iron each of these. Then, in addition to these 4 pieces of material, you will need 2 pieces which are 4 inches by 26 inches. And you'll see it's a long strip. You'll need 2 of these, and here's one, and here's the second one that I've already ironed, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But these are going to be for the shoulder straps. What you're going to do to iron your shoulder straps, you're going to fold these with wrong sides together in half. And you're going to iron these. Then what you're going to do, you're going to unfold this and then fold each side to where it meets that crease line. So I'm going to fold this side and this side and press it again. After you get that pressed, you're going to fold this again where your original press line is. And you're going to iron it again. And make sure the evens match up where it looks neat. Now I have my 2 shoulder straps. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to show you how to sew these. Okay, now that we have ironed our straps, what we're going to do, we are going to sew along very close to each side seam. So you're going to sew along here and then sew along this side. And what it's going to look like is this. I hope you can see the thread is very light, but it makes a nice strap. There's a seam along here and a seam along here. Now what you're going to do, you're going to set these aside, and then we're going to take our first 2 pieces of matching fabric. You're going to place them right sides together like this, and this is my lining fabric. So make sure the corners line up, and it doesn't matter. Use a 1/4 inch seam, but be consistent. It doesn't quite matter how wide the seam is, just to make sure, as we've taught in class, that it's consistent with all of your seams, so everything will match up. So what we're going to do now, we're going to sew on each side and each bottom. So you're going to sew along here, along the bottom, and then back up this side. And so I'm going to sew that right now for you. And as I've reminded you before, always reverse when you start and finish each seam to make your seam strong. I've sewn, like I've said, along each side and each bottom, and it should look like this, and it should still be inside out. Then after you sew that with the lining fabric and the outside fabric, you should have two pieces that start to look like bags. Each are sewn on the sides and along the bottom, and they're still wrong side out. What you're going to do then is press open the seams along each side. You'll see I've pressed open my seams, and even along the bottom. It's difficult to get on your ironing board, but you'll want to iron most all of your seams open. Then what you're going to do, you are going to take each corner and make what is called box corners. What you're going to do, you're going to turn each bottom corner the opposite direction to where each side and the seam are against each other, and then press this along with the seams being open. And so then what you're going to have is two corners, and I don't know if you can see this very well, that will be pressed in the opposite direction like this. And then what you're going to do, you're going to get your gauge and move it to 3 inches. I don't know if you can see that. What you're going to do then is measure in the center seam from here to here and make a mark all the way across. And what I do, it's obviously hard to measure on this side, so what I've done, and I'll show you on this piece, I've marked the lines in several places. I first mark 2 lines in the center by putting my gauge here and then just marking there and there. And so then when you lay your gauge this way, you can make sure it's straight when you mark it over here and over here. And you'll notice I made marks on each side. And what we're going to do is sew along here. And this is what makes our box corners. I'm going to sew this really quick and show you. And what you're doing, you're sewing right along those marked lines. Again, reversing at the beginning and the end of each seam and trimming your threads so it will look neat. So now what we have is this piece that's been sewn along here. What we're going to do now is cut along this seam. So then what you end up with is a corner. And I've done that to this other side. So now what you'll have is a bag with a wider bottom. Can you see this? There. And what we're going to do, and you're going to do that also to the lining, or whichever one you didn't do before. You're going to mark it with your gauge, sew, and cut. So you'll have your outside and your inside fabrics looking even more like a bag. See? And what you're going to do now is iron the very open top seam. The opening, you're going to fold down and iron 1 inch down on the outside and on the inside. You can see I've already previously ironed that, so it's laying very nicely. So then what you have 2 pieces that look like this. Now what you're going to do, you're going to turn your outside fabric right side out, but leave your lining fabric wrong side out. So here is my outside fabric, and here is my inside, well, the lining. What we're going to do is place this inside of here. And I hope you can see what I'm doing. What we're going to do then, essentially, your wrong sides will be together. See how that is? And you're going to match up these side seams of each, the lining bag and the outside bag. And you're going to match up those seams like this. And why don't we go ahead and pin each side seam and make sure the tops are even. You don't want the lining fabric to be sticking out a little. You want to make sure you don't see the lining fabric when you're pinning along the top. And now I'm going to pin the other side seam, but don't pin all the way around because we have one more step before that, because we need to insert our straps. So here we are. We have the inside and the outside, and see how it's starting to really look like a tote bag. Now we need to insert the straps, and we've already sewn them, so they're now ready to insert into the top. And so now I'll show you how to insert the straps. Okay, as you can see, I've laid my bag on the table, and we have essentially 4 pieces of fabric. 2 sides are the inside and 2 sides are the outside fabric. And what we're going to do on each side of the bag or tote, we are going to insert the straps between the lining and the outside fabric, just like so. But we're going to move our gauge to 3.5 inches. And I am going to place it right on the edge. And you put the outside strap right along 3.5 inches. And I put it inside about this far, it's about 1 inch. Slide it in, and again, since I pulled it out, I'm going to make sure it's 3.5 inches. And I'm going to pin this strap in between the lining and the outside fabric, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to measure 3.5 inches. And you don't want the strap to be twisted, so make sure your strap is straight. Insert. Make sure it's 3.5 inches on this side also. And it's the outside edge that is 3.5 inches from the edge. And I'm going to pin that. So now we've pinned the first strap, and I just want to verify that I didn't twist my strap. I'm also going to place a pin in between the straps on this side. Now I'm going to flip this over and do the same thing on this side. But since you have it laying straight like this, you can see where the strap is on the other side, so I don't even measure on the second side. I place this one in between the lining and the outside fabric on this side. Make sure it's even with the other side. Put it about 1 inch, again, about 1 inch down inside, and pin this side. So you have the lining, the strap, and the outside fabric all pinned together. Now I'm going to do the other strap. I hope you can see. And make sure the edges of the top of the bag are straight or even. I'm going to pin this and then place a pin in between the two straps on this side. So now what you have, your bag is pinned all the way around and you're ready to sew. And so your final step is to sew two seams, one very close to the edge and one about 3/4 of an inch down. So what you're going to end up with is a seam along here and a seam along the top. And I will show you what that looks like. So here is your finished bag. And as you can see, I've made two seams, one close to the edge and one about 3/4 of the inches farther down to make it look clean and neat. The inside. Here's the outside. And you can put things in it and carry it along your way. And actually this bag or this tote is reversible, which means you can carry it either direction. Whichever direction you would like to carry it, you can. See? I hope you enjoy making this project. Thank you.